So that is a hangout on air broadcast to YouTube.
Yep.
Titled Paramedic Council Yukon AGM.
Great. So it's searchable on YouTube.
Do you want to check to make sure?
Yes.
What do we do now?
Oh, nothing, it's just that,
I didn't put
their
up
AGM
the.
later. I think we're going down, but I think there are.
I think I'm gonna go down.
Should be
any
good.
In the future for the
It might be
communities,
busy for me
plan on
to,
using
get my,
the
restrictions.
Connect system.
Or just it can be
We can
canceled.
send out
Yeah. Sorry, whatever you have there.
Yukon College.
So go to YouTube.
Then it's alive.
Yeah. You are already in, yeah, Ian's right. I think it's
Okay.
supervisor.
We're getting
We're getting
trained,
signed off
training it
for restrictions.
Yes.
So.
He works with full scope.
We're
But his
able
license
to
in
train
Alberta is
before-
restricted.
Which is why
The
we're
restrictions
not allowed.
lifted, and you just have to go through like.
I got it. There we go. We're live. Good stuff.
It is.
No, he's
Well,
not.
that's where he was, yeah.
Ian's not.
Not anymore?
No.
Okay, so Eric, what do we do? Search YouTube for camera?
So it.
Do you want me to write it up here?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Loren's trying to log in on Comex here.
What is the restrictions? Should be fairly simple. They should have their process.
And it's on Eric Miller's YouTube account.
What about brain?
Yeah. Want to top that off with?
Strawberries? Oh, toys.
Took a second for it to register.
That doesn't bother well for you.
Is that a busy shit?
I would put strawberries.
You're smart enough to vote for us. See, my ears are working now.
Oh, there was never any doubt that your ears worked.
Okay, just so you know, this is now recording to YouTube, people.
Yeah.
As of right now, we have 0 viewers. So
It took me a while to text, I'm sorry.
come on, Doug, get it together.
My thumbs only move so fast and they're fat.
Texting Cindy, she was.
Yeah, no, I just,
But she mentioned.
I thought I heard you, heard it. There's a touch of the delay.
Apparently, we're making Lorraine cry.
Right.
My food?
She's about as much of a techno nerd as you guys seem to be.
That's a very significant.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. You watched on your phone? Yeah, it's worth 30 seconds.
Must have one viewer. Just heard the beep.
Someone log in.
Are you pointing at your cell phone?
One viewer.
Yeah, Quay's got it.
One whole viewer.
Everybody doesn't have work.
Yeah, he's right there.
So obviously this is on the bench.
Oh, no, just let me know if one user.
Well, we did everything yesterday.
You are our link to dispatch.
Oh, what? Okay.
You are our link to dispatch.
Or Sean, you can text me back and forth with his wife.
For that, yeah. Should get dispatches or shot.
Well, thank you all very much for your patience. We've had to sort of stream this out on YouTube because we've been trying to get with the college's IT department to put it out on Adobe Connect. It's just been a 2-month nightmare of just schedules and call-ins and other challenges. So thank you for eating more snacks over the last 20 minutes. I appreciate it. I'm not packing all those up.
Okay, it's official. CarMax is watching.
Nice.
it's important to speak up here, guys, because these microphones on the computers are very limited.
Yeah, they're not awesome.
So if you're taking notes, you actually have the chair of BASS, Lorraine Graham, and myself as chair of education, WK, representing BASS for these proceedings.
Great. Okay. So should we get started?
Yes, sir.
Great. So I guess, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. There's a lot of faces we've kind of seen over the course of a few meetings. As you may or may know, we've, on an interim basis, been holding meetings for the Paramedic Council of the Yukon over the past year. And sort of onus behind doing that was to be able to form a group of professional paramedics and first responders, a group that would, in theory, be open to all practitioners of emergency medicine in the communities, in the Yukon in general. And that group would function as a group for advocacy for paramedicine in the Yukon, public health in the Yukon. Our hope would be to develop some relationships with other not-for-profits to sort of further that whole goal. So in a nutshell, that's what we've been trying to get organized. And I guess officially we just need to have this AGM, have people hopefully commit some time to making this happen in an official capacity. So thanks for coming.
So aside from all of the faces that we know, we have some guests here from the Yukon Council for the Aging. Is that what I heard you say?
Council on Aging.
If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to everyone, it'd be appreciated.
I'm Connie DeBlanco, president of the Yukon Council on Aging, and my chauffeur tonight is my husband, Lawrence.
Pleasure to meet you both. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for being here.
I actually, this was brought to my attention from the Yukon Anti-Poverty Coalition.
Yep.
And I was in touch with John, asked just for more information because
Thank you.
And I've already sort of got
On that point, we're looking at education information sessions and just encourage the programs should also
Yeah, and that would be something that all of us would be asked. Just leave that on the side.
Working again?
Back online.
Yeah, exactly, and I've done that. I don't prepare for an annual. What to call them? What to call people.
Here. Yeah, might as well.
Okay, so we're back up and running again. So if you look at the form, it's sort of a brief history of the Council of the Yukon. This started out as just a grassroots effort. Many different people, many different voices, many different ideas of what this should be, what it should look like. And we're just trying to amalgamate that into sort of a single unified voice, going to where John had said, for advocacy, public safety, education, and just the general principles of paramedicine in the territory. So the sticking point for us as the interim committee, which is John Delay, who's the interim president, Eric Miller is the vice president, I'm the secretary, and Kathy Donald and Kathy Irvine is the treasurer. And then as well, Joseph Perez is our community nursing and sort of allied health member as well. She's been at all of the meetings and a very staunch supporter of the group, which has been fantastic. Big sticking point is that, like John had mentioned, we need the AGM to sort of get a mandate to have a committee that can actually make decisions as opposed to an interim body that's sort of putting stuff together. So again, that's why we're here this evening. So with that, we'll move into our sort of our overview and direction. The overview is just us four with Crystal, because Kathy being the treasurer has some great ideas. We have no money, so she's got nothing to add up. It's a very easy job as a treasurer.
We have money now.
We do now, yeah. We do now. We have $200 for food. We're just looking for, I guess, at this point, sort of some input. You know, what do you guys, as the practitioner body and then members of the community, see? You know, is there anything that you would like us to look at? Anything that you think that we should add to the list? Because if you notice on the paper, there's issues and initiatives that we have there. But anything that we may have overlooked that you see, anything that you'd like to add, any questions that there are about any of the bullet points that I have?
Maybe just to go over that for the people that are on the stream.
I guess so.
Just read that out.
Okay, so for those of you who are streaming, the issues and initiatives at this session are practitioner advocacy, territorial continuing education initiatives, the integration of EMS into community health as a whole, fostering better communications with Yukon EMS volunteers, fostering better communication pathways with other emergency services, strengthening communication with allied healthcare practitioners, increasing community involvement and public awareness, initiatives in improving public image, and creating a mission statement and values.
So any questions or comments on any of the points that we have listed, or anything that anyone has a burning desire that they should add up?
Then with the increased community involvement and public awareness, I think that's kind of high on my list as far as just communicating better and more, not just awareness, but actually educating the public on what we can do for them. And what we shouldn't be doing for them. As we all know, we many times have gone into homes where people they haven't called us because it wasn't an emergency for them. They're dreadfully ill and they didn't want to be a bother. That's something we need to fix. We need people to know that it's perfectly okay to call 911. That's what we're there for. That's why we have a service, is to help you when you're sick and injured. And the other thing is we need to inform the public that we're not there to keep the peace. We're not there to deal with people who are causing a disturbance. That's a police matter. And I find that we're often getting called for people who are simply causing a ruckus, but then the people who really need us aren't calling us, and I think it's just ignorance on what we have to offer.
Right, and that's a great point. I think fundamentally as practitioners or healthcare professionals, we're underutilized. Even in a best case scenario, I think a lot of times we're still underutilized. Where there are places with community paramedicine with these programs going on. So it's something that we have to push to evolve a little bit. I think we've got to be the driving force behind that and come up with some ideas as to what are the specifics going to be, like what project are we going to pick first? Are we going to do a stroke awareness piece? Are we going to start talking to the paper and start doing some basic education about what paramedics can do in the community, what we're for, when to call us, when not to call us, and then how do we go about doing this? Are we going to do this? We have to do this in conjunction with Yukon EMS and the Yukon government in a non-confrontational, collaborative way. So, but yeah, I mean.
How is that going to work? Are we going to just tell them what we're thinking about going to the media with and getting their opinion on it? We don't have to deal with 1G on this, but we don't obviously want to make them angry. So.
Unfortunately, with the GAM, there's some pretty specific guidelines through volunteerism and working as an employee and not.
Yeah.
So not to say that we're skirting it. There's a very specific process. So as an anonymous body, we can put out a lot of public awareness pieces, public education pieces. It's just when you get into, and it's been brought up a few times that we should go after them and try to get them to do this. You shouldn't go after anybody in the first place, but going out against your employer is certainly never a good idea. I think it's been brought to our attention that won't be tolerated as well. And there was some allusion that Health and Social was going to be here tonight as well, but they haven't shown up. So we're working on it. It's a piece in progress. But it's again, after tonight will be something we can attend to more vigorously.
It's also a gray area with the volunteers because we're not seen as employees, but we also fall under that envelope when it comes to communication in regards to whether it be public communication or digital media.
I think that as far as communication goes, anything that's public knowledge or public knowledge is very game.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest concerns that I have for the territory, not just, I think that one of the agenda's long-term goals would be promote public education as far as educating people that there is actually no health emergency act. There's no any sort of EMS mandate for the territory whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to see that, and it's a paragraph in the names, and it doesn't actually say anything about any sort of level of service or anything. And so that's something that is very concerning. As a member of the public, that's very concerning. That also allows the employer and to not be responsible for any level of service, which is also very concerning. And I think that would make us a very high priority and would kill a lot of birds with one stone if established without mandate.
Yeah, I don't think that's lost on any of the responders in the room that there's certainly some legislative oversight challenges within the territory. That's certainly something that was on the minds of the entire group when we sat down the first night at Starbucks like a year and a half ago, and it still is. It's just getting the traction, getting into the community, turning sort of the perceptions around at the same time as trying to deal with the long-term plan of how that's going to look. So it's certainly going to be a challenge not only for us as the council, as EMS employees for the government, as well as within the legislative body itself in the House. So.
People tend to listen more clearly and better if you have a unified voice, and this is the first steps that we're trying to accomplish is by speaking with the unified voice. So we're off to a good start just by having this meeting again.
Well, and just to clarify as well, the goal here is to be as inclusive as possible with everybody. We're talking about every practitioner in Yukon, volunteer, paid, whatever. There should be no distinction.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we I think make that a sort of a founding tenet and the focus going forward. A lot of issues that we've seen, the VAS was, that was an organization that's sort of, in opposition to the employer. So, in and on an ad hoc basis, employees aren't a part of that group. So we don't want to have a, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
My concern as a volunteer is that the VAS had negotiations with YTG, and they had a memorandum of understanding which established, wages and a relationship. And currently, that memorandum of understanding expired in 2013. And what's happening right now is that the employer is absorbing a lot of the VAS agreements into their own SOPs without any consultation with volunteers whatsoever. So it seems like there's not much of a place anymore.
Yeah.
So it's something that we can also look at.
For sure. Like what's, is there, can we at least ask the question, like, how are you going about this? Are you using best practices? Are you using any evidence to support your decisions in the way that you're doing this, right? And those are things that I think we have to, as a group, start asking, right? Like when it comes to our own performance and our own ability to evolve or.
That is something currently that is being discussed within VAS as our new terms of reference. So it, at this point, has no bearing on this council.
No, but as residents and ratepayers and people in the community, it affects us all as sort of first responders and our abilities. So, plus, certainly that's something we're going to be able to deal with. It's certainly good information for us to know to sort of keep track.
Yeah. Sorry, Rod.
That's okay.
I think that John actually mentioned it briefly. I think it's really important that there's no differentiation between levels of training or full-time, part-time employees versus volunteers. I think as far as a council goes, there's a lot more strength if it's just people who provide care outside of the health center, because then it's a collective group. What happens if we start, and one of the reasons we have problems with YG, we have problems with training money, is because they've got everything separated into little buckets. So this is training for this people, this is training for these people, and there's no ability to move things around. Whereas if we look at everything as a group, and we are pre-hospital providers, it's a much bigger voice, it's a much bigger group, and then we can make changes that affect all pre-hospital care, which will filter to the communities as well as, ground, medevac, doesn't matter. So I think it's important that whatever you guys are working on is part of what we're doing with Paramedic Council, because they're hugely linked, right? And then there's more of a voice. It's not just VAS barking at the government. If it's coming at them from another angle in a different language, they're hearing the same thing different ways.
As opposed to being confrontational, which, there's an expectation I think that YG has had with advocacy groups, right?
Yes.
We're not a confrontational organization. That's not the goal here. The goal is to be collaborative, non-confrontational, and hopefully by doing that and simple, we just distill the relationships down to the basic level of first responders, right? Anybody working as a first responder on an ambulance, that's us. And how are we? Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, you can finish your sentence.
I lost it. So
And the integration of EMS and community health, I don't understand what that part is.
I guess just looking for a more collaborative relationship with community members.
Okay.
As well as potentially opening them up to a little more of a, like Doug and I talked about earlier before the meeting, that they can sort of look at paramedics as a whole, as sort of a resource in the community. Maybe not to support what they're doing, but as a support in that community as a whole. Just to open up a more collaborative communication, because it's very pseudo-confrontational depending on the community you're going into.
And within the communities, when we went from health and social to community services, it sort of broke our communication ties to health and social and community health. It would just be nice to have that common ground to have discussion again.
There's also a lot of ideas and stuff that you guys have discussed about harm reduction, getting out in the public at events and things like that, and maybe doing education sessions, or presenting, things like that. So I think that really embraces community health.
absolutely.
Sorry, Ryan.
So coming from somewhere where there's a large amount of paramedic associations in Ontario, kind of idea, and one of them being the PPAO, the biggest one kind of thing, that's a subchapter of OPA. The way they grew was through the advocacy was through the high school things, was through that. And then from there, these other topics that we're talking about are great topics. But until you have, we got sitting in the room, you know, half a dozen people or a dozen people kind of idea, and the public gets used to seeing us and they get used to knowing what we do. Like one of the campaigns that we pushed when I was there was we made these posters, and basically it was for the high schools to get people, kids who wanted to become paramedics, and explain what each level of paramedic was, kind of idea, and what they could do. And then that was how we got into the school system. And then we need to break into systems before we start going, well, the employer should be doing this, this needs to be doing this, and that sort of idea. And I totally agree with everything that you guys are saying, but we need to, there was a guy last week that was at swimming with my son, one of the other parents, who's lived here for 30 years and didn't even know we had a med. Right? So right off the start, we as an organization, if we're council or however we want to call it, it's more about public awareness, and then it's tackling the bigger. That's just my personal opinion.
No, right, right.
And have we looked at? Have we looked at partnering or getting involved? Like the new one right now in Alberta is, I forget what that new association that's just kind of popped up in Alberta. That was the first one. You know what I mean? Like it's always been kind of the college, but then there was this thing that branched out. But like talking to the PPAO and seeing what they have done to get to where they are with the size of, you know, they have something like over 2,000 members. Most of them don't even work for the city of Ottawa, right? They are other areas within the country that sign on to work. So I don't know if we're looking at that sort of route or what the overall.
We are. We're in discussions with What's Up Yukon to put stuff in there. We're going to be taking out ads in the local paper. They're online, as well as in print. Again, it's just until we get sort of a mandate from tonight from the vote before we can actually do any of that. Just because of the bylaws. Because what we're working on is working as a sub-chapter of the Paramedic Association of Canada.
Okay, so we are tied in with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that I totally agree with what Ryan's saying, but I do think it's important to establish long-term goals. And some of the bigger things we talked about, we need to get the public on our side first, and we need to do the public awareness first, absolutely. But it's good to take a step back and look at the big picture and say, what's the actual purpose of this? Which direction are we heading? Which direction are we doing this? Which is why I think it's important to talk about these big topics that we're talking about.
Absolutely. I think fundamentally we have to talk about everything. We just have to, I think really more to Ryan's point is we need a strategy, right?
We need to prioritize for 6 months to a year, to a 5-year goal, which may be changing something with at the political level, right? Like, and
strategic planning session.
Absolutely, right. So this is on a practical note, like this is something that as a not-for-profit here, like we have access to that kind of training. There's government money. There's Yukon has funds available, courses available for us to whoever's interested wants to be a part of this to sort of develop some of those skills. So there's that. There's the connection with the PAC, Paramedic Association of Canada, and be able to develop some of those relationships pledging relationships that we have outside the community and within the community to figure out, how better to do business here in the Yukon, but also get a lot of good ideas from people who have fought or been through the same.
Because I think you mentioned legislation, right, Dave? Yeah. So I know for a fact the NWT is drafting legislation to cover that, and they looked at Alaska, the Yukon, BC, and Alberta, and that's where they're going. So everybody's been talking at the political levels. It's just whether it's come down to the lower end levels.
And the other can of worms that we need to open is a licensing board of some sort.
Sorry, what?
Licensing board of some sort.
That comes after
That's far down the road.
Changes. I agree.
Far down the road, but it needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Because we did investigate sort of the college aspects, like they did with all the other HPAs, and the biggest sticking point for us is that we cannot actually form a disciplinary committee because we don't have enough people.
You have to be.
How do the doctors get away with it with so few doctors?
They're licensed.
Doctors,
So if a complaint is filed against a physician here with the Yukon Medical Association, the College of Physicians in BC investigates.
So why can't that be any different than?
You want what the
Biggest thing
license
is,
to
well,
investigate?
that's a separate conversation, and most of us are from Alberta, and being a previous member of the board, I have all those answers for you. It's just not purview for here, but it's certainly a big challenge for us.
I do know there's a movement currently undertaking right now within YEMS to establish their internal licensing board right now.
There's a bunch of other stuff going on, so it's interesting. And Mr. Buchanan, you had another point, but.
I was thinking about the initiatives improving the public image, and all of us have an idea in our mind of what we think the public image of us is. But I think, well, yes and no. I think that we don't have any actual information on them. We don't have any.
You're talking about doing a survey.
Yeah, some sort of data. I think that it might be important to start with finding out what people do think about us.
Well, what we're basing that on presently is, and for the Blancos, just in case you're wondering, for most of us, if we've worked in other places, if we go to Tim Hortons or another coffee shop, 9 times out of 10, someone will buy your coffee or say, thanks, you do a great job. Here in the Yukon, I've been accosted 3 times saying, how dare you take the truck out on a break to get coffee. So I know Dave Bryan has also had that, as other people. So that's to say, I've also had people come up and say, thank you very much, we appreciate the work you do. It's just that it seems to be maybe an 80-20 split on sort of a negative connotation. And I don't know where that came from, I don't know.
Yeah,
A number of years ago, there was some bad press that was not really appropriate. We had a director for a very short period of time who basically just called such a whiners and money grubbers when we were actually going to the press complaining with the fact that they'd reduced service to the territory by about 30-35% to save money. We were saying they're letting trucks go empty, and we went forward with that, and they just said, oh, they're just complaining because they want the overtime. And there was a series of other things, but that certainly didn't help our image.
So there's just been a sort of a vacuum of
data.
Well, of data, but of public information getting out into the papers and into the community from community services and from health and social before that. So as a sort of responsible council of paramedics representing paramedics, it's just going to be our goal to sort of get it out there to say, feel free to stop and ask us questions. We're here, for you. That's our sole purpose. If you have questions or concerns, we'll certainly take those and pass them along if we can. Actually, yeah.
Did you guys, as the interim council, develop a mission statement and values already?
Still working on it. We're still working on it. There's parts. I think we have 3 different sort of drafts.
We have draft mission statements, which I'm afraid I can't access in the minutes right now. But certainly we have been actively working on drafting them. We have not yet reached a final draft. So, and that reflects, our, obviously you can see the list of priorities we have, and we would like a mission statement that encompasses, and a mandate that encompasses all our priorities. And that's why we have not yet finalized one. Sorry, you were saying something, Dave?
No problem. Going back to what Ryan's saying about public perception, just from working in the communities, working in Dawson, Watson Lake, East Junction, and putting up seniors clinics myself, doing things separately outside of my units. I can say with all honesty, there's a huge disconnect between public expectation and actually what is provided in the community in the form of pre-hospital care.
In what way?
Sorry?
Sorry, in what way?
There's a disconnect. The expectation of the public is higher than the actual care that's provided.
They don't understand. If you live in the community, you don't necessarily know what emergency services are available to you. So you may think that there is, you call and somebody's going to come. They don't realize that there may be nobody in the community, things like that, right?
And it's anywhere from a first aider to a paramedic.
Right.
And there's also people, I was saying in Hinge Junction, for example, our average response time within Hinge Junction is about 25 to 30 minutes to a resident. People were absolutely shocked by that.
What was ours? Ours was 90.
Yeah.
We
That's if there's an ambulance in service in the territory and not comes from my office. Yeah. That's right. Awesome.
Yeah, and that's again part of the public awareness piece, right? Not being confrontational, but just outlining.
Yep.
This is the service. This is what you have. This is the territory. This is what it is. Not that it's good or bad. It's better than nothing. This is what you have. it could be better. Just to put it out there.
So with the public awareness, obviously we've got a bunch of initiatives planned. So what comes to mind for me is it's obviously going to cost us, right? We need money. So if we determine sort of what dues are going to be and like how we're going to get this money, I know John mentioned sort of grants and things like that.
Initially, on the startup for public education and getting things out in the press, we get 60% discount from both of the papers.
Excellent.
So it's good. So right now it's basically executive funded. So we're putting in seed money from ourselves and sort of as a donation into the not-for-profit. There are other grants. And is there a fee structure? We've sort of talked about it, but again, it basically because we're going to come from tonight and then communications with the stakeholders of the group that are interested. What do you want? What are sort of the expectations? What are we looking at down the road? And if there is, a will to have sort of a Con Ed package that goes out, then we'll have to look at, is it going to be $20 a year, $30 a year, depending on sort of what the membership would like, would then dictate what we would have to do to get it at a purely cost recovery basis.
Right. So are you guys registered as a not-for-profit?
We currently
Whatever
are.
Tax receipt, whatever your dues, you get to write off your dues, right?
Yep. We also participated in a recent fundraising campaign doing litter pickup on the Alaska Highway. So we currently have $250 to our name.
All right.
So you took in the empties.
In a manner of speaking.
In a manner of speaking.
No, but all joking aside, that's a very simple thing that won't cost us any money, is that members, instead of taking their bottles to the recycling center and keeping $5, they can donate it back into the organization. But there's little things like, you're right, it will cost us money. There's lots of little things we do that won't cost any money.
Right.
I recycle anyways, instead of keeping $5.25, I can just chuck it in the bucket, right?
That's why the volunteers were organized as a society, because as a society we can do our own fundraising campaigns, and that's how we make our additional funds on the side as car washes and bake sales.
And we're bigger than Girl Guides, so we can take over the cookie market.
Just muscle in there.
Girl Scout. I know, Girl Scout can be really scary if you're not careful.
Only if they're in packs. Wait, they're always in packs.
Oh, right.
I'm just going to interrupt for a moment to talk to those of you who are streaming. I've scanned the document that we have. If you would like a copy of it, please put your email in the group chat and I'll email one to you. Thank you.
So for the whole public awareness and everything, I think probably the better part of the first year will probably last year was the first year moving forward with a mandate, the first year with a mandate and a direction. This would be kind of 1 year interim goal. We can get a bunch of public education stuff out and then we can tie in with EMS week, which will be towards the end of year 2 of the whole thing. And we can start to bring attention to it. And then hopefully at that point, we'll be able to tie in with YG's EMS week initiatives, because from what I understand this year, they tried but didn't really do that well. So is that kind of something that you guys are looking at or considering?
Absolutely. I think for us, it's been kind of a steep learning curve, because you pretty quickly realize that when you're limited sometimes the amount of time and money and energy that 4 guys or consistent amount of people can put into this, we really have to get it to a critical mass where these things can happen more quickly, because we can just deal with the logistics better, right? And that's what that's about. Being able to plan a year and ahead is really what we have to do to be successful with that kind of stuff. So yeah.
In addition to Quinn's comment, VAS decided this year that we're moving the education and skills competition to the main meeting. So that would fall in direct line with EMS week. And we would like to open it up to industry professionals, not just the volunteers within Yukon EMS, with you guys coming in. We're looking at bringing in Atlan, Skagway, Haines, and anybody, Wildland Fire, anybody in the professional first responders areas, and making it a trade show.
Parks Canada.
And yeah, opening it up to everybody that has an interest in public safety and serving under the purveyor of helping patients. And that's our long-term goal for this year, is setting something up like that.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Speak a little bit to what Shane mentioned already this week. So we had initiatives, we had barbecues, we had everything going. Then what had happened was that there was some YG initiatives as well. So we tried to tie into that. We tried to get them sort of moving, but to no fault of our department, just the whole bureaucratic wheel. By the time they needed all their stuff, they needed a 14-day headway, and it was 2 days. Yeah. It was impossible. So it was really unfortunate. The other downside was that when the call went out for people to be interested in being involved, there was 2 people that came back and said that they would. Well, either people were off and didn't get the email, other people just have families and other timelines. Not to say that our staff is bad, it's just it didn't work out because when you get 4 days notice or something, you just can't drop your life for it. So
it's not just there is a reality that there are some tensions between a number of the employees in our department. Not saying bad about them, just saying there's some tensions there. And quite often things that are organized by our employer, many of our staff say, I'm sorry, I'm on days off and I deal with you and I have to. Right. So whereas we're doing things through accounts, that's our own thing. We're not working for our boss. And I think you'll find you'll get a lot more engagement and volunteerism out of people that for sure not directly tied to a Yukon government event.
And again, that's the other thing. That's what I was like, if we can start this whole process now, we can start tying in with YG and the media branch and everything through YG, then we can hopefully use the YG public awareness net, for lack of a better term, and everything that they have to put out, EMS Week barbecue in conjunction with, the Paramedic Council Yukon in association with Yukon EMS, blah, blah, blah. And maybe potentially get some stuff done in each of the communities and everything as well, tie in with VAS, any other stakeholders, pairing organizations, whatever. So maybe even fire marshals, because technically that's all first response as well, right? So,
no, absolutely. It would be interesting to hear like what their response to that would be.
So, because I think
that's Dennis Barry is taking care of all of that now too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, and again, I mean, if we're, from what I understand, one of the main points of this meeting is to try and come up with mandate, rough timelines, goals, and of course the executive that are going to be dealing with that. The practitioner advocacy, while it's excellent, I don't think we can do much on the advocacy standpoint until we have that voice, like Ryan was saying, which is where the communication with the various organizations is one thing that's just going to take the time and the traction, getting to know the right people to talk to. But the improving public awareness is going to come with community involvement and public awareness of who we are, what we do, what we're capable of, what kind of timelines you can expect. It's great that we now have 3G service almost everywhere, but there is no cell service where the sign says you're in the 911 zone. Just simple things like that. Like there's no emergency services on the Dempster, yet we've got an EMS organization in Eagle Plains, right? Little things like that can be done for the public awareness thing. So anyway, so if we want to, Eric, I know you can't access your mission statements or your drafts of them.
Yeah.
Can you paraphrase or summarize some of those so you can kind of get support for?
Mike might be able to.
I just want to bring up one sort of thing is with people kind of not showing up, what Rob was talking about earlier, is that number one failure of most organizations is communication. And so we need someone in either this room or in the communities for someone to take that up and dedicate someone solely to not only establishment of a website, but also establishment of a contact list that is using non-YG emails for distribution.
So from the last year, Eric has registered a domain site for us. We do have a Facebook page. And then for, I believe, the majority of the folks that have come up, we do. And it's something that's certainly on our radar. Again, it was just a matter of not being able to procure a website designer. Because, you know, I can hack my way through it, but it's certainly not going to look pretty. And just going through a template. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking for people to help with that as well. It's great.
So I was actually just talking to someone the other day who was interested in designing websites, and he does it. He's just graduated from UVic.
Oh, sweet.
And he said he would potentially be willing to do it for free.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's what we needed.
So I mentioned that I would talk to you guys about that.
That'd be great. Yeah, good. That'd be sweet. Really good.
And what you know is who you know.
So for the mission value, we have just standing for emergency medical service excellence and advocacy across the Yukon. And then for just more information about it would be like join us to help educate the public, show them the professionals we are, help earn legislation and standardization. We want to advocate for you and we want to build a community together. It's kind of what we came up with for our statements so far, roughly. That's all I have.
Thanks.
Another outreach that we kind of already do is the party program, taking kids before they go to prom and everything and get them through there, kind of scare them for not drinking and driving and whatnot, but not just doing that. We could go in and do stuff like Ryan was saying and have like the posters of the different levels and maybe get them interested in our actual career and doing
The way to make
things
money
with them.
fast is community CPR programs.
Yeah, we run those through the college here as well. But yeah, that's something we're talking about going into the high schools and doing them.
I don't even think the hospitals, like, you run a program for, like, what's the, I can't think what the very basic CPR course for the lay responders, right? It's usually about an hour, 2-hour course kind of thing. And you charge $20, right? Someone, the instructors volunteer the time.
Yeah. What I've done through Heart and Stroke is that with the education office of the BC, is they've sent up about 2 grades of the CPR anyways.
Yeah.
So we're putting those out into the community.
Yeah.
That's going to be happening sort of with our public awareness piece. We're at the barbecue, we're going to be giving those away and then doing just little hour-long sessions.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
And
but
then,
of course, without failing, that doesn't happen. So, yeah.
It can always be rescheduled. It would just not coincide with EMS week.
Right.
no, exactly. It's, you know, so you get 10 people, you charge $10, $20, right? You're already double what you have in the bank account right now.
Or you do it for free and raise your
Well,
community
you do so
profile.
many, yeah, you do so many in the year for free and you do so many that you charge. How many businesses downtown would gladly have a paramedic come in and do some CPR, right?
What I did at the Mountain Film Festival in Hayes Junction was I set up a booth as a volunteer and basically said to the people of Hayes Junction, I'll teach you CPR in 2 minutes. You need 2 minutes of your time, I'll show you how to do chest compressions. And this is what an AED looks, because we have 13 of them in the community public access.
Yeah.
That was just a quick crash course.
In the junction?
And something that could be associated with that would be a donation box.
Are you a certified instructor though?
Yep.
they just don't get a card for the 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Have a little bit
That's where the full course, the hour
We
course.
bring
you
them
get
into
a card,
TV
right?
for that. They're on card from now on.
Yeah, but for that, we'd have to be
In the States, they teach CPR on TV.
That's
true.
true. Not corrections.
So,
Without words.
That's good.
You want to mind it?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll be in charge of the face paint.
No, I said, in the States, they teach CPR on TV in 30-second commercials, some of them without words.
2 minutes or less.
CPR is not complicated.
No, for sure. That's it. They're taking the blow there out of it.
Yeah.
No breathing, everyone's just push.
That part was confusing people.
That part was stopping people.
yes.
So what kind of input do you guys want on the mission statement?
Everything, anything that you want. we're looking for any input we can get, because it's all valuable.
Can we write what you have on the chalkboard?
Eric, I'll give it to you and you can do the writing that you don't want to see my printing on there.
I've seen your writing before, Mike.
It looks like all that writing.
Why do you think Eric's got the chalk in his hand? Lorraine wanted everybody to know that EMS week is May 23rd to 27th next year.
The Canadian one or the EMS one, because they split weeks now.
What?
Okay.
EMS week is the week before, and then Canadian Paramedic week is the week. That's why we got donuts from Brian for EMS week, and then the Canadian Paramedic week was the following week. I don't know why they opted to do that. It was
Ours is in metric.
Yeah, that's separate.
Please don't get that sound from the whiteboard.
You'll get that sound from the smartphone, yeah.
Someone in the first aid room used markers on the smartboard.
Really?
That's
It's always got to be one.
Despite the big, do not use markers on the smartboard.
My mother wasn't very smart.
Is it safe to assume that the interim executive is more or less happy with their positions? As far as nomination stuff goes?
I'm not sure.
Saying continuity is a good thing.
And you'll notice that's why they're split between 1 and 2 year positions between executive members, so there is a succession planning piece.
Yeah, okay.
That's all that we just received. The more the merrier, the more people that can be involved. Even commit to, an hour a week, or it could be 45 minutes a month. It's just why we need a few more people to kind of reach critical mass so that we can start following through with some of this stuff.
That's from all, not just the executive meeting.
Yeah. And ideas. I mean, everybody's got a connection or a better way to do something. So it's kind of what we need. As many people as possible.
Speaking as an individual EMR from the communities, I don't think many of us realize that the PAC and the NOCP guidelines include EMRs in their oversight. Perhaps in the communication to the communities, allow the EMR volunteers to know that they're covered within this scope and that they can be a part of this group. I'm sure that a lot of them don't understand that when we're talking about a paramedic council of the Yukon, it includes EMRs.
So what's the best way to do that, Doug?
I think, like, part of the with our module-based system that they're working on, our biggest concern is that it will be an in-house certification and not recognized by the Paramedics Association in Canada under the NOCP guidelines. So just letting them know that we are looking for an equal stance amongst the rest of Canada and North America when it comes to our certification and our legislation. That would probably bring them on board, knowing that we're not trying to isolate ourselves from the rest of Canada. We're trying to equal ourselves to that.
Well, we're really trying to open as many doors as we can, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think a big part of the take-home message. And my question to you would be how best to try to inform as many people as possible that they can be part of this. We want this is what this group is about. And then B, what's the best practical way to do that? Do we go and speak to people? What do we make a priority in terms of clear, concise, and consistent communication with communities?
I would just caution and lining up with NOCPs, because then you get stuck by a rigid document. Whereas I know right now the EMR scope here is greater than what the national.
Well, we learn perhaps more ditch work than what's in the general EMR guidelines. But the push currently is to shy away from Red Cross training whatsoever and come with an in-house module system. And that's scaring the crap out of volunteers. Because Red Cross is recognized. And it's transferable outside of Yukon EMS to other jobs within the territory, let alone across Canada. And to go with certification in-house that's non-transferable is actually shying a few of our volunteers away from the service. Because they're afraid that they're going to get all this training and then not be able to use it anywhere else. And that's why I'm using the NOCP guidelines as a recognition process.
I think that one of our goals could be, as a council, is to promote nationally recognized and accredited training for all levels of service providers. Because I agree, I think that it's, while it has a value doing it in-house, there's a lot of huge.
I think, Doug, the concerns you bring up in terms of EMR training can be echoed right across the board throughout the service. I know at the medevac end of the building, where there's a lot of discussion about critical care training and a lot of push for accredited training there. And thus far, it hasn't happened, but it's the same concern at both ends.
Yeah, that's
So,
actually why I deal with you guys on a regular basis, because we all share the same concerns, even if our level of training is slightly different.
yeah, so I think we can all agree that, a priority, as Dave pointed out, can be pushing for standardized and accredited training for all practitioners. So.
Well, this is a debate that sort of, is what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? And I think fundamentally, bring it back to what Ryan's biggest point is that we need a strategy. People understand who we are, what we do, and start to think of us, view us as healthcare professionals. I think we may see a lot of the public asking these questions, right? They're start to wonder,
The province I would use as an example is Nova Scotia. So prior to 1998, it was funeral homes that ran it. And by 2004, no newspaper ever printed ambulance driver. Whether they were EMR, PCP, an ACP, or CCP, it was always printed as paramedic. And that's where the pushback for advocacy, right? When I read the paper and I hear, the ambulance driver picked up the guy and drove him super fast to the hospital, and the hospital has him in stable condition. There's never a mention there that the care that was provided on scene. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And once again, not going back to Ottawa, but one of the things Ottawa did really, really well, it was public PR in the aspect of they always, if fire put five news releases out a day, the EMS side would put 6, right? Just to have one more. And then that's what grew the profession. And that's what grows the profession here.
And I would
meet all of those concerns and worries, the other ones that you guys are bringing up, right?
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, someone with power hears what we're saying, and then that's how the change occurs.
That's right, and fundamentally, we have to be part of the landscape, part of the conversation. That's how you do it. So there's a huge vacuum there. No one's telling our story, right? Our employer doesn't. If the employer doesn't do it, there's no articles. There's no good news stories, right? A lot of the articles in the paper, we're not even involved in the accident scene. The patient just magically appeared at the hospital, right? Fire was there and police was there. Police gave a statement. Fire gives a statement. We never give statements.
We've released 2 statements from EMS, public press releases all year.
And I get that. That's a YG policy. That there's nothing we can do. And as the council, we can't go and comment on calls, but we can easily go and start commenting on paramedics this week went and picked up $200 worth of garbage on the lap. Like I don't know the whole thing, right? Like I know I got the email late on that one, but that's what builds and drives it, right? The other thing, the history. I've only been here a year. If we had on the Facebook page or on the web page the history of EMS in the Yukon, that starts to generate talk, and no one. I ask 5 different practitioners here, I'll get 5 different answers of how the system sits and how it works now from where it was 10 years ago, kind of idea. Knowing where we came from will help us will help us to get to where we want to be and go to.
We are working on that right now. It's been a huge problem with our change in administration, and then our PR person has changed as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm writing an article in conjunction with Canadian Paramedicine about the Yukon and the history of Yukon EMS. I just hit some incredible stumbling blocks with our not so recent retirement of our past director, and then some other challenges with our current director. So we're looking at it, and it's certainly, it's a very interesting story because it turned out with a nurse and a first aider going on an airplane.
Yeah.
To what it is today.
Exactly. And that'll sell newspapers, or people will read that, right? It may not mean much to us here, kind of idea, but the general public, people, wow, I had no idea about that. It's interesting.
Another thing to mention for people that haven't been to all the meetings is that Eric has been doing a lot of like social media stuff, trying to get everything going, and then trying to gather pictures and stuff, so we can start putting that out into public eyes once we actually build up enough of a audience, I guess.
I guess the gray area question is that when it comes to pictures, are we allowed to utilize the YG logo, or is it just that you guys in day clothes have in the community?
You can take.
Sorry if I was commenting, I had a meeting with Director of VMS last night about exactly that, about the possibility of negotiations with YG about a memorandum of understanding between the Yukon, between the council and YG, where we would be functioning at events in our YG uniforms, and there would be a level of understanding. He was open to discussions about that. So that's something that could be come in the future, as well as what you're saying, the display.
So displaying that now, if it's for journalism, they have no say whatsoever on anything that's put up there. If we start selling them or putting them in a different arena.
The reason I ask is because I actually have an archive of photos.
So yeah, further to that, we can only use photos if we have permission from the people in the photos to use it.
It's a group shot with a certain number of people.
Yeah, there are guidelines about that. Certainly nothing that involves a patient, unless that patient has expressly offered you the photo.
No, understandable. I went through all the initial guidelines when I set up the first Yukon EMS.
That's right.
Page,
So I am happy to accept any pictures you have. We have a very fledgling social media presence, but are aiming to improve that.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like when we are doing those newspaper articles and stuff, we could even put down the social media things and then start getting people following it that way and stuff too. It's kind of how you spread it and start it.
Sure. Any other comments or other issues or initiatives that you guys would like to add over here?
I think Brian has just kind of tweaked the mission statement there for a good possible one, if you want to read that.
We'll have radio voice the line.
Mission statement. Paramedic Council Yukon stands for pre-hospital healthcare advocacy and excellence throughout the Yukon, demonstrating professionalism.
Sorry, do you mind speaking up and a little slower for those who are streaming?
So here's the mission statement from Ryan. The Paramedic Council of the Yukon stands for pre-hospital healthcare advocacy and excellence throughout the Yukon, demonstrating professionalism and educating the public to build the community together.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shane pointed out one significant change that EMS is not in there.
Yeah.
Which opens it up to anyone who's providing pre-hospital care.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, a lot of the people I've talked to in the community, I know it's all anecdotal, but when you say I'm with EMS, they'll be like, what's EMS?
EDS.
Yeah, they have no idea what EMS stands for or what it means.
A comment on acronyms. I think it's very important that you put Paramedic Council of Yukon or specify what EMS specifically is. Because to the general public, even through the Yukon Council on Aging, which we commonly refer to as YCOA, I mean, that organization apparently has been around 30 years, and to some people, the acronym means nothing. So that's just a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
EMS out.
Yeah, so in the amended version, we'll remove it entirely to make it more comprehensible.
Acronyms they're just jargon, right? I mean, two different industries will have similar acronyms all the way through, and they mean completely different things. So I think that anytime we're dealing with the public, we should eliminate any acronym, including primary care, advanced care, EMR, all these things. It should be spelled right out.
In Mike's defense, he spelled it out and I abbreviated it when I was writing it.
Thanks.
It's not something we're doing, eh?
Yeah.
Like you said, making it pre-hospital as opposed to emergency medical service, I think opens it up to the whole, everybody, that's involved. Because this would be open to like, say, a safety guy at a mine.
Absolutely.
Or the EMR for Parks Canada, or the fire marshal's office.
It's anybody who does any type of.
Anybody who's certified to do it and is in the position where they may have to, the commission of their duties have to provide that care.
You don't have to be an ambulance, you just.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Do we want to extend this to community registered nurses who are currently practicing pre-hospital care research?
That's a really good question.
Certainly. If they're interested in being involved, we're interested in them.
Yeah, because that's one of our sort of mandates is to get out and to strengthen them. So certainly.
Well, and fundamentally, I mean, you look at the landscape of healthcare in the Yukon. This is a place that is unique in a lot of ways. There's people with multiple roles, multiple hats that cross over, and even dealing with just one patient, right? So we can incorporate as much of that expertise in one organization that's for health advocacy. Then that's I don't know if that's been done before.
I think healthcare in the Yukon has always been a really fragmented collection of small agencies, but we're all on the same team. So.
We should.
Yeah.
How much work do you want to put into the values part of? Because that could be a long conversation.
Yeah, well, it's a conversation that needs to keep happening, right?
Yeah.
So I think really like we've heard, I mean, and this is what's great about this. So many ideas come out, and now we really have to, decide what the agenda is going to be. What is the goal? What are our goals over the next year? And how do we come up with a strategy to best achieve them? How do we come up with a process of evaluating how what we're doing is either A, working or not working? And how do we sort of ensure that we keep the ball rolling on it? So yeah. Any other thoughts or anything we haven't talked about?
I think the biggest thing that I've heard collectively is that our initial goal for this next year is public awareness. Educating the public of who we are, what we are, what pre-hospital care means. And then getting the name out, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the next goal to that would be getting more pre-hospital care providers as part of the council. Those sound like the two main goals for this year.
We could reach out to people who are working in the community, like once it starts growing, they have nothing to do with EMS in the Yukon, but if they're an EMR or paramedic working for one of the mines, there's no reason why they can't be part of the council.
Yeah, letting people know that it's going to be a huge part of this year, I think. That's what it sounds like everyone's saying collectively.
Well, right, like, do we need to make the traveling roadshow in a way and sort of, talk to as many people as we possibly can? I think that's certainly needs to be a part of the objective, right? And bringing in groups that we have common interests with, right? That's the other part of it. So,
Well, developing maybe some brochures that we can give out. I know my whole family is in the trades. They all have safety people on their sites. There's
One of the greatest promotions that the ambulance paramedics of BC did in BC, which was they're the union governing paramedics in British Columbia. They went on a road trip and they did a high school ACT program where they went to every community in BC and taught CPR to grade 10s in every community. And so that not only increased their presence in every community, but facilitated public image and provided training to the general public.
And then I think one further goal on top of that would be, as part of our public advocacy and awareness standpoint, meeting with other stakeholders. Obviously, we have Yukon Council on Aging here tonight, and talking to them about what they want to know about us and what they want us to know about them. So,
yeah. Right on.
And then potentially consider joint fundraising for things like public access defibrillators in places that don't currently have them, as well as volunteering training for use on things like that. Because if the junction has 13, I can only think of about 4 in Whitehorse.
I found 4 new ones this week, in fact.
Pardon?
I found 4 new ones I was unaware of this week.
Yeah, right. And just the basic education on where they are, how to use them, things like that. Because again, that's something that realistically can make the difference. So, but that's a liaison thing.
Yeah, and we are tied into that at the moment with heart stroke.
Okay.
Because I'm now the public access defibrillator guy for Yukon.
Of course you are.
So it's starting in July.
Yeah.
The world needs keeners.
Yes.
Ryan was touching on it, that I think they were pretty much agreed that we're going ahead with, let's get our name out there. And as much as this list is full of excellent things, I think that they can wait. I mean, as far as picking a direction and prioritizing goals, I don't think we need to figure that out right now because we don't have any teeth, we don't have any mobility. These guys are, obviously it's a touchy subject in the communities for sure, the training thing, and I get that, but we can't start tackling training issues.
No, until we have a voice to speak with, there's no point.
And you want to be careful how much you attack that one because we've had no training for so long. We're starting to get it now. The last thing we want to start doing is saying we don't like the training, right? Because it's better to have poor or not appropriate training than none.
No, we're also playing the wait and see game within the volunteers. It's not a bad system idea as a supplemental system. We're just hoping that's not going to be the end all be all system.
For sure. So what you notice there it's on the agenda is point 5 is we're going to set up, get an executive set. We're going to have a meeting within 60 days to sort of funnel through everything we talked about here. What's the first priority? What's the second? And this is just to see for the people who are interested and have come out tonight to say, this is, you know, we concur with this piece and we don't think it's as important as that. And shuffle it from there. So that's some fantastic input tonight.
Is that when the official vote will go down then? On that meeting? Or before that?
No, the official vote for
Nominations.
nominations are tonight. Yeah, it's going to be right now, actually.
I'd like to nominate John DeLive as the chair.
I would second that.
Third.
Would you like to stand, sir?
Yes.
I will nominate Eric Miller as the vice president.
I'll do this vice chair.
Yes.
Vice chair.
I'll second that.
I'll let that stand.
What do the directors do?
Yeah, well, that's the next thing. So the directors, we asked for 5, so at least you're from Whitehorse to get some community stuff. And it's really an undefined role at the moment. It's someone who can come in, well, just has input. It might be as, I just want to know what's going on, to, I'm willing to take on projects and have a significant amount of time that I can. And it's really just input from that person. So,
I'm interested.
you're interested? Then I would nominate you.
And I will second that.
Since you already said you're interested, we're gonna let your name stand.
I'll take one.
Yeah, David, for sure.
And can we take David for one of the community reps?
That's, yeah.
Okay, good.
I would also like to have someone that's actually not affiliated with YG or anyone that's an EMR is not a PCP to be a part of this, because I feel that my perspective is my perspective, and I am a volunteer, but I do wear multiple hats, and that sort of can be a bit of a conflict sometimes. So I would like to have a director from the communities of some sort that's not really affiliated with any other group.
Well, what I would like to do, because since Crystal is such an integral part,
I would nominate her.
Crystal, are you willing to continue with us?
I've been in the Yukon for 9 years now. I've been to every community. I've worked in most of them. Lived in Queens Junction for 2.5 in Watson. But now it's nice because I'm away from community nursing, so I'm with community health programs, and I'm an RN and on the board of directors for the Yukon Registered Nurses Association. So I'm really familiar with the building blocks of like structure of organization, strategic planning, all that kind of stuff. And just talking to the community and stuff as well.
All right.
So actually speaking from this past acting board, Crystal's made an incredible contribution thus far. So we would love to have you if you're willing to.
Yeah, that would be an honor. I would also like to nominate someone who's not here tonight. He's a crew member in Queens Junction. He's also a council member of Queens Junction.
Because he can't defend himself.
I said that if I put this forward to the council and was ratified, he was willing to accept this, and he said that he would be absolutely interested in being a part of this. He wasn't able to attend tonight's meeting because he's on a Champagne meeting. But his name's Dave Weir, and he's a strong advocate for pre-hospital care, and he was behind a lot of the public information that was regarding the lack of coverage in Queens Junction this summer, and it was probably one of the reasons why they got that coverage this summer. So I would like to nominate him as a representative who's somewhat.
what we can say is we can take his nomination tentative on, just hearing from him when he's available to do it, so we can vote on it tentatively.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
second that. I know you.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as he's willing to accept it.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, I already said it. If you were nominated and seconded, we could just accept it. So,
Treasurer and secretary.
Those of you who are streaming, if any of you have nominations, please telephone me now at 333-9367.
Also for a good time.
Thank you, Josh.
Remember, there is a 3-second delay.
Is there?
It's about a 25-second delay.
You might want to say it one more time so you can hear.
So once again, that's 333-9367.
Still on the code, man.
What's that? I shouldn't have it. I was like, achievement for president.
Still haven't got it.
You didn't get
Doesn't come.
you didn't let her.
I'll nominate Rob as secretary.
No, we still have a treasurer standing as well. Do we know if Ms. Donnelly is still interested?
I believe.
I don't think.
And the station is calling.
I don't think
Hello? This is the number you call for a good time. Hi, Station 1. I'm good. I'm going to put you on
Free
speakerphone.
hospital care is even better.
Station 1 is on speakerphone now.
Oh, Station 1, we're doing the festivities of the meeting.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going?
just on a quick note with a history of EMS, I have boxes upon boxes of stuff that Ryan and I and Eric Grassam could configure for the interest page in future endeavors through the council.
Amazing.
It's good stuff, dude.
Like pictures of poker and beer in the basement.
It's appropriate stuff.
Excellent.
Oh, there you go, the legs cut up.
So John, did you have a nomination? John?
Check my knowledge.
He just wanted to talk about the history stuff.
No, he's completely just distracted by his own echo, you know. He's watching himself to
John, you still there?
Shiny.
I think we'll have to move on from the job conversation. I think we called Mike Shane and asked about Kathy's interest.
I will, sure.
Oh,
Director.
sorry, just somebody remind me who.
And Dave. And
Dave Squared, I think. right?
yeah, Dave Squares for Justin.
Oh, great.
Crystal.
And Crystal.
So did you say that you spoke about that?
Yeah.
She's not interested? Okay. Well, so then I guess, unless there's someone here that's willing to do it, that is sort of the secretary treasurer piece. I can absorb that. Unless somebody wants to take that on.
What does the treasurer do?
Ah. You're in charge of all the money.
Hello?
Hello, it's me again. You guys hang out with me? I know you guys don't like me a whole lot, but I'm like, come on.
No, we didn't hung up. Did your hearing aid fall out?
Well, that's in my catheter, so I hope that some AC beer can help me with that.
Okay.
No, I have no nominations, but what positions are they open for nomination at this point?
Well, we're talking about the treasurer.
Oh yeah, I'm not good with cash, babe. That's not me. Anyway, something happened. I didn't want to leave that hanging, so I just wanted to call back and say I'm on board and would help whoever I can.
All right, buddy, we really appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
Okay, bye.
Okay, man.
Does liking Secretary Rob? Yeah. I'll nominate Rob for sure.
Second that.
Second.
Thank you.
And you said that you'll be the interim treasurer to find somebody who's good with money?
Well, someone wants to take it on.
I'm really good at math. As soon as there's a dollar sign, I'm really good at spending. So
So what you're saying is you're nominated?
No.
Well, we need someone who can spend some money.
Well, we need somebody who can spend, account for some money, but I think more important than that, I mean, I don't know how much money will actually be spent. We can't spend money we don't have. So one of the maybe the benefits to having that role, perhaps somebody in that role is going to be looking to where we find the money, right? And sort of being able to get creative about how we start, filling our coffers in with it. So if anybody's interested in that, I think it would be.
As well as the legal requirements for audits.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's going to be smart.
Or if somebody else would like to run for vice chair, I would also be happy to take on treasurer role.
What
But
does vice chair do?
Everything John doesn't do, he's not.
I don't know what any of this.
Yeah, so the vice chair, so the chairman basically runs the entire board. Very similar to lots of other things. So we'll chair the meetings. It's solely responsible pretty much for everything else if we as the rest of the executive fail. And then the vice chair takes on various portfolios, again, just like the director at their, when they can, who's of course a volunteer position. And then we'll act in chair stead when the chair is not there for a meeting, if family comes up or work or, any of the 900 other things that can get in the way of life. So,
I've tried to take on a lot of the communications portfolio as part of it.
Is that the view though, to like start branching out and actually have people assigned to the areas?
Ideally, yes.
We just
But-
don't have that many people.
For now, we just haven't had that many people. So,
And I think again, we just, so I think right now simpler is better, and what's the main focus would be is about educating people what we do, and we are raising our public profile, right? So that's something that all of us can be involved in. Really, there's just one sort of main project. There'll be facets to it that will tasks that'll have to be accomplished, but I mean, it's It's really all to the same end, so.
I want to help, I really understand my own bank's
That's okay.
law.
And just, these are just
So
sort
put
of.
vice chair, do that.
And that's not to say that if there isn't a, if you don't take chair, vice chair, or treasurer, there's not other stuff that'll be there.
Yeah, no, I
Certainly.
I see communication.
Part of, I would like to volunteer as treasurer, but I know I would suck at it, so.
You want to calculate.
That's kind of what I was
Well,
saying.
no, the math
People
part's
have
easy, right? It's
secretary.
it's the laws. I don't understand Canadian laws.
But you're not carrying your gun, so you understand what.
No, it's just not here. Because I can't figure out the laws to bring it across the border.
Eric, currently, how many directors do we have?
We currently have 0. We can have, I believe, up to 5.
Oh, we just-
We have 5 nominees. So who we have for directors for the 2 White Horse positions is, who's been nominated is Josh and Mike. And then for communities, we have David Ryan, Crystal, and then Mr. Weir.
Lorraine just texted me and she wanted to put my name forward as well, if there is an alternate position.
How do you feel about treasury?
We dance around that.
I don't necessarily have the skill set. And I don't live in Whitehorse and have direct access to a bank unless we make it online banking.
No, well, and really what the treasurer is going to do is you basically work with the account that we have to choose.
Yeah.
So there's not, I guess, a significant amount of staff with the not-for-profit. We have very strict guidelines of how we have to do it, so it's just coming up with sort of alternative funding and looking at resources in the communities and maybe accessing grants and things like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to.
That's not a skill set I currently have. But if there's not a steep learning curve.
No, and again, just because it's not a position on a sort of an executive, it certainly doesn't preclude it from there being, associate positions or titles or projects that you want to take on of interest, things like that. So there's lots to do, clearly lots to do. So if you want to put your hands in, we've got lots of hires for you to come in.
So Doug, are you willing to let your name stand for director, if not treasurer?
I think he's saying no to treasurer, that's what I was picking up.
Yeah.
I don't actually have the skill set to be, that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, I understand that. Do you want your name to stand for election?
If that's all right with the
All right.
council.
Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
All right. Are you MAC or MC?
MAC, capital K.
Okay.
No, my name's not up there.
Sorry, Mike.
Just forgot about that, sorry.
That's supposed to be under the treasurer line, I think.
Accidentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I miss anybody else? Wasn't on purpose.
Sure. So, I guess all being said, the only thing we need to vote on would be community director, because everyone else is acclaimed. There's only one person we can't vote on. So.
Lorraine says I can handle $200.
We're hoping to have more than that.
It's actually $250 right now, Doug. Although we have to
I've
renew.
already lost $50 apparently.
We have to renew our URL, so we'll drop it back down.
So you just 5 names up.
Yeah, just put as many names as you want.
Emojis.
Hieroglyphics.
So, I'll just hand these out and then we'll.
So we're just putting 5 names out on the board. Ones that are on the board right now, right?
I believe so.
4 pieces.
I think this, we're getting 3, so I think this is for the community director position.
And
So
sorry,
it's in
what is
both.
the
You got
community
2
directory position?
Two, you, Dave, Crystal, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
So we have 4 for the 4 for the communities and
3 spots. So you have 3 ballots, so we'll cast the first one. And then if there's a clear winner, that person will be in. And then it'll be between the other 2. So what we have right now is we have the first person in communities will be Dave Bryant. The second person I've nominated in communities is Crystal. The third person is Mr. David Weir. And then the fourth will be Mr. David Kenny.
Like a hat or something. I actually haven't had to. I appreciate it. That's all my class.
asking an old man if he wants a hat, what the hell?
I would. The only reason I don't wear hats is the first year I shaved my head when I was a young guy. I wore it for a while and then took it off. Oh no! Oh, wait. The rest of my head was burnt from my neck down. I was like, I'll just take the whole side.
Even burn.
Yeah. No,
I get that.
You could work out like gray.
I get this. You get back. Recognized for sunglasses. I couldn't imagine that.
Sorry, are we voting for multiple?
Well, there's 4 people, and you get 3 outs.
Oh,
So
okay,
there's
sorry.
going to be a clear majority, and then we'll see what the other 2 are. So if we get 3, it's a clear majority. We'll go from there.
Does that count as a vote?
Crazy.
Sure, yeah.
That's mine. Oh.
Change driver.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Have I got it else for everybody?
See you wake up August 1st.
Did you look for yourself?
Hang out with the chief for a week. Holding hands. Become one.
Hey, I'm Scottish, don't make those sounds.
So now we're talking about, the potential dates for the next meeting and how there don't seem to be a significant number of community events in August, like, the music festivals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's people
Very
are
helps with this.
big into the fishing, and big into the hunting, and well, Todd.
Yeah.
Well, he very much wants to be on the mountain with his sheep picked on the 30th of July and just sitting there waiting
For him to show up with this
for the first day of August. What are you doing? I've been following you around for a week. That's when Ken was joking he's just going to go out in a big white suit. Get to know him really well and hold hands with him until it's the 1st of August.
Yeah, there's a few of them up our area too.
Yeah.
Want to count them?
No, more power to you. I just, I'm not a huge fan of sheep meat enough to do that.
If I can't hit it with my truck, I find it unsafe where it takes too much energy.
The most exhausting hunt of my life was falling powder around.
Well, that's it.
It's like a sport.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing here, right?
Well, I've been moose hunting with them. Most people, you call the moose and it comes to you, not Todd.
Todd wants to track it. We've been sitting here for an hour. This isn't going to do. We need to move.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Part of the
remember
disorder.
Yes. Todd, now we're 800 meters from the road. What happens if we shoot a moose here? Now it's going to suck to get it out of the swamp.
But he likes that part too.
Well, yeah.
He's into that.
Yeah, it tenderizes the farther you have to drag it.
Okey-doke. So after counting the ballots, Crystal, clear majority. And then we have a tie between Dave Weir and Dave Bryan for the next two clear majorities at 11. So with that being held, the three positions will be going for Crystal, Dave Bryan, and Dave Weir.
Oh, great. 2 Daves. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Democratic process. There we go.
Damn, should have went for treasurer.
Thank you very much for letting your name stand, though, Doug. It's very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Doug.
Again, like I think we've heard many times tonight, it doesn't mean that there's not a lot we can.
There's a lot we need.
Okay.
Really annoying phone. Except government vibrates. What makes funny vibrates?
So I guess with that, so for the folks that are now newly elected to the executive, thank you very much. Congratulations. We'll be sending out an email to try to get consecutive dates in the next 60 days so we can sit down and start working. And with that, thanks very much for your time. Make sure you grab some more snacks on the way out because I do not want to pack those up.
And
I have no self-control and I have to take us all to work. And Quinn and I are going to be so bad.
Yeah, Quinn has as much self-control as I do when it comes to grazing.
I would just like to ask before you guys leave and before we adjourn, if you've not yet added your name to our list and would like to, I have a form set up on my computer.
There's also one at the back.
The one at the back.
Wonderful. So,
any other questions, comments, or concerns before we adjourn?
Do you want to hash out a date now, before, or?
It has to be before the 10th of August.
Yes, but you also need to let people check their schedules, potentially, have date where it's at.
I would like to extend a great note of thank you to the Yukon Council on Aging. I'm sure this was fascinating for you.
I know I've experienced a lot of what you're doing in preparation to get this council going. But I also read that I'll be going to the Anthropic Coalition and really comment what we heard tonight.
Well, we really appreciate that, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come and join us. So thank you very much. And we really appreciate the work you guys do.
I think we may be on track for things.
I was going to say, yes, we have contact information for your organization.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, perfect.
Sorry, where's the email list?
There's one on paper at the back and one on my computer as well.
Gentlemen, will there be minutes of the meeting sent out so that we can send it to our volunteers?
Yes, there will.
Yes, and I think we're also going to formally record the meetings and either broadcast them, have them available on either YouTube, or we're going to try to get Adobe Connect figured out as well, which is a web conferencing software, so that anytime we do have a meeting, it's available to stream with just a link, right? So we can send out a link and have anybody coming in be a part of it. So,
those of you who've been following us on YouTube, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. That absolutely.